Right, welcome everyone. Welcome. It's already 9 p.m. West African time. Please let me know if you can hear me. You can just drop in the chat so I can see and be sure that you can hear me. All right, just drop in the chat and let me know that you can hear me, and let me know that I'm audible and that you can get me loud and clear. So we are live. Please do well to share the link with your friends, share the link with as many of your loved ones and the people that you know. Wow, Judith, nice to have you here. You're the first to join. Thank you so much. Thanks for letting me know that you can hear me. And it's really going to be a very phenomenal experience. Thank you so much, Judith. For every other person, please let me know you can hear me. Just type in the comment where you're joining from and let me know that you can hear me loud and clear. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate this. Oh, Obed Damilola, thank you so much. Good evening. Good evening to you, Obed. Thank you so much for joining. It's really amazing, really phenomenal to have you join Growth School tonight. Thank you so much. Interesting. Yes, you can hear me. Very good, very good, very good, very good. Nice to see that you can hear me. All right. All right. Any other person? Let me see. Let me know you can hear me. Let me know you're ready. You're set. I have a whole lot to share today, and I just kind of doubt if we have the space of time to be able to share all of it. Wow, Esther Matthew, nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much. Nice to see you. Thank you. Thank you for the trust. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being here. It's so blessed to see your people, to see those who believe in you. And this is really amazing. Like you can see already, we're starting a new series. We just concluded a series on leveraging the power of leveraging the tools for growth and influence and relevance. And now we'll be starting a series on sovereignty series. And our first session today will be looking at the concept of the level of dominance. All right, the level of dominance. Firstly, before we move on, I want to really appreciate everyone who has been so committed to joining Growth School. I know a number of you joined along the line, a number of you knew about it late. You know, some people be like, so you've been doing this thing, you never told me. And for many of you who knew about it, who joined, who have always chosen to be part of Growth School, I'm really grateful to every one of you. Every one of you, I'm so grateful for all those who believe so much to the point that you share Growth School with your friends, you share with your family members, you share with all of your loved ones. I'm so grateful, and I really appreciate you. So getting right into it, levels of dominance. I know for many people you would have read, and while you were reading through, you saw a lot of the things that I said around Alexander the Great, even though I'm likely going to touch that, but I will not be starting from there. I will instead be starting from something different. If you're someone who is you're very conversant with the stories in the Bible and a lot of the things that you hear from the Bible, you will relate to this story I'm about to share. It's about the story of Joseph. All right, some people say Joseph, with whatever ways. Nigerians call it Joseph. All right, so the story of Joseph. You know, that young boy Joseph, who was the second to the last born, which means, when we say second to the last born, which means there's actually a younger one after him who happened to be the last son or the last child of Jacob, their father. And because of the love that Jacob had for the mother of Joseph, you would usually find out that he poured out all of that love of Rachel to Joseph, and for certain reason, Joseph had a lot of preferential treatment, the best clothes, the best things. You know, Joseph seemed to have a lot of those things. And there was this kind of special treatment that he got. And because of that special treatment, a lot of his brothers hated him. They never liked Joseph. They felt Joseph was like a threat. Why was he the only one getting the best of things and best of that? And for certain reason, they just hated the young man called Joseph. And along the line, you will find out that Joseph was sold into slavery. And while he was sold into slavery, they did not, they just created some sort of conspiracy, sold him to slavery, and that was how his journey into Egypt started. And his journey into Egypt led to him working as a houseboy in the house of Potiphar. Potiphar happened to be one of the noble and well respected individuals in Egypt. And while he was in Egypt doing all of his work, trying to do all of the things he was doing, Joseph grew, and the wife of his master, Potiphar's wife, created interest in him and loved him. He was an awesome guy, and it was like, oh, Joseph, what's up? And he was winking at him, trying to just get him to do all of that. Eventually, she lied against Joseph, that Joseph wanted to rape her, which was not true. And this landed Joseph into the prison. And he got into the prison for certain reason. Those people liked him, those people loved him, those people appreciated him, and interpreted a dream for the baker and also for the wine presser of the king, who were actually brought into the prison, and they were there together. And they kept the charge of the prison in the hands of Joseph. Fast forward, eventually an event took place, and Joseph grew to the point that he became a prime minister in the land of Egypt. That was a sort of sovereignty. I know with the way you have listened to the story, you will feel like, oh yeah, that's it. It was his dream. It was his mission. But many a times, it's not enough to dream. It's not enough to believe that something, you should get it. Now, the issue I have many a times is that you see people will do a lot of positive declaration, this declaration, but many a times they do not move beyond that particular point where they give such declaration. They do not move beyond that point, because there are actually systems and strategies and processes with which people dominate, with which people really have dominion. You see, there is this promise people claim a lot, especially the people who believe in the Bible. Be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it, and have dominion. The truth of the matter is the concept of dominion is not automatic. There is a system and strategy to dominion. You can claim dominion all your life. You can speak dominion and say a lot of things, and yet not be able to step into it. Why? Because there are systems and structures that enhances dominion and makes it become reality in the life of people. All right. Now, I want you to watch critically. If you're someone who have followed the event of times and the things that have been happening recently, you watch this nation and that nation, and you see a lot of talks happening about who is actually world power, who is actually going to become this, who is actually going to become dominant, who is actually going to be all of that, and then you see all of those things. Many of times, what people do is that they comment and they try to take sides, but you find out a lot of people do not try to draw the lessons from events. But you know what strategic people are doing? The people who truly rule, who truly create the narratives that happen in life, they watch all of those things, they study, and they begin to predict in order to choose their next step and action. You see people saying, oh, this nation, this, that, and this, all of that. And then all you're doing is to follow the story. You are commenting, you are taking side, you're saying all of this, you're saying all of that, but you are not picking life lessons that you need to adopt and imbibe into your life. Instead of take sides, what you have to do from the event of time is to draw lessons. Many of you are not aware. Abiodun, welcome, good evening. What many of you are not aware of is that there was a time that the United Kingdom was actually the most respected, was actually seen as world power. The British were actually seen as world power. There was a time that Italy, Rome was actually world power. You need to begin to study how world power actually moved from one nation or from one territory to the other, and why right now the United States is termed as the world power and all of that. And right now we have Russia, we have China, we have all of those things coming together. Your ability to be able to study history would help you take real life decisions instead of watch the events of time take place. Welcome, Victoria Bishop. So nice to see you again. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much. Nice to see you. You should be able to watch over time. Let me give you this hint. For any nation or for any individual or for any institution that will grow into dominance, that will become the ruler, that will become the core decision maker in any dispensation, there is one thing that characterizes them. They are always a nation of production and not nations of consumption. Think about it. United Kingdom, there was a time they produced the weapon, they produced the ship, they were the ones who controlled the seaways, and for certain reasons they were considered as world power. There was a time it was Germany, there was a time they were actually people who produced things that the top nations of the world needed to use. They were not a consuming nation. So your ability to be able to grow that sovereignty, where you do not just become the kind that consume everything. So right now you're consuming social media platform, you are consuming the e-commerce platform, you are consuming all of the content coming out, and you are not producing anything. But yet all you do is, we will dominate the earth. The righteous will dominate the earth. And all you do is declaration. You will not grow into dominance, because the system of dominance happens through production, not consumption. The ability to be able to give out and produce something that a massive number of people will consume and make use of, and you are able to build it to a global level where it can be respected, is what makes you dominant, is what gives you an idea of dominance. Think of all of those nations. They produce something, they give out something, they export something, they offer something, they offer value, which means your proclamation is not enough. Your ability to produce something of value is what sees you as a candidate for dominance. Is what sees you as a candidate for dominance. I just cited the story of Joseph. What was he producing? He was producing wisdom. He was producing intelligence. He was producing interpretation. He was producing something of value. And then he grew to a point where a king invited him to say, come and offer the same value you are giving. No wonder he grew to becoming a prime minister, because he was producing something. So beyond your proclamation, beyond your declaration, because right now we are in September, you know what will happen again in December, 31st of December, when a lot of people will go for something called the watch night service. And then all you're doing, pray the new year will be better. 2026 will be massive, will be all of this. Remember how you said it, 31st December of which year? 2024. Now this is September. You've spent 9 months. Are you attaining that level of dominance, or you are only proclaiming and expecting that a miracle will happen? There is a science, there is a knowledge, there is an ideology, there is a system, there is a belief culture that will be able to offer you that result that you have always been proclaiming. So every nation, every institution, everyone who grow to a point of dominating any industry, they are usually people who commit to production, not just consumption. All of the things you are consuming, think of from the day you were born till now, you have always been consuming. What are you producing that will match that declaration you keep making? So nations, you find out they are always producing. They are always producing. There is that concept of production. Let me take you a bit back to Your economics. For those who did economics, I did economics in secondary school. If you didn't do economics, sorry for you. Because you need to go back. If you didn't do economics, make sure you go back, study economics. Because every nation that dominates understands something about economy. They understand something about economics. There's something called the four factors of production. You know, what we're talking about, production and all of that. There's something called the four factors of production. If you know them, let me see in the comment. Let me see those who truly went to good secondary school. Let me see those who went to good secondary school. What are the four factors of production? I'm looking at the comment now. Four factors of productions. Four factors of production. Let me see. If you are so sure, like you had a good economics teacher, type now in the comment. Four factors of production. All right. So you would see land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. For any nation that dominated, any nation that dominated, grew into world power, did very amazing things and becoming the best and all of that. Ayodiji, you have sense, so very good. You went to a good school. Land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. You will realize that every battle they go into, every time they go into battle, every time they do all of those conquests, it is always a battle for any of these four things. They usually dominate and rule by any of these four things. It's either you see a nation going to war with another because they want to expand their territory, they need more lands, all right, or they want to dominate the lands of another individual. If you when I was young, part of the movies we used to watch, like my dad used to play a number of movies, used to be a lot of these ancient Yoruba movies that would take you into the history of Yoruba lands. When you find out that, oh, this particular nation, this particular maybe town actually they actually waged war against another town, and by waging war against that time, by the time they are able to dominate and win, and they are able to defeat their warriors, they take their lands. All right, they go for war in order to expand their territory, and then you will find out that the particular land that maybe have let me say XYZ square feet meter, they extend their territory, and then they are able to have more. That was the reason why they went for war. The reason why they went for war, and they wanted to really show they were powerful, they wanted to show they were strong, they wanted to show they were there, they wanted to gain respect, was because they needed more lands. Why? Because the more land you were able to cover, the more things you are able to do with agriculture, you are able to expand, you're able to get your people to possess more lands. It's usually about the concept of lands. Number two, labor. Think of what happened during the slave trade, all right, the era when the British came or the Europeans came, and then they came to Africa, and then they paid in order to get black people to go back to their own country. Why? Because they needed more labor to be able to do a lot of their mechanical work, to do a lot of their things, and they offered certain things over and over again. And for that reason, they became respected and honored during that dispensation. Why? Because they needed more labor. They needed more labor. The same thing applies to capital. The people who have more lands, more labor, more money, and then seem to be more enterprising are seen as certain degree. In fact, look at a lot of the nations that made it into first world nation. They made it because they were able to improve and increase any of these four things. They were able to improve any of these four things. The ability to gain more lands, the ability to increase their labor force, the ability to be able to have more money flow, and then they were respected over time. And that was actually what brought about the honor of different currencies. So if you see the currencies of the world, whether it's pounds, it's euro, it's dollars, it's yen, it's yuan, it's any of those currencies, the ability to be able to improve on those things are the things that grew them into dominant forces that people respect. Now, look at any of these four things. and think of countries in the world. Just begin to imagine some countries. Which country seems to have so lot of lands, all right? So lots of lands, and they seem to be improving on their lands. They seem to be doing a lot of things in their lands. Think of labor. Which country in the world right now is respected for labor? The ability to build production, to be able to offer anything. Which country is seen as in terms of capital? They have so much capital, they even give to other nations. They build collaborations with other nations. They invest into other nations. Why? Because they have more capital. Which country is doing so well in terms of entrepreneurship? You will realize that such nations are seen as the 1%. When you talk about the 1% of nations in the world, there are nations that are improving in these four areas. This is why the concept of dominance is not just declaration. And for many of those nations, you know, them coming and doing declarations and doing all of those things and, doing a lot of the religious things that are usually esteemed in Africa without putting in the work to be able to grow. So that's why I think understanding the level of dominance is very important. Regardless of where you are, regardless of what you're doing right now, you can increase and ascend in your level of dominance when you understand the strategies and the levels with which these things begin to happen. There's actually no nation in the world that started straight up from prosperity. By God's grace, I had the privilege to, I had the privilege to listen and learn about the history of China. I knew they are not where they are because they have always been there. The same thing, the United States was never the world power before now. They moved from a point where they decided to improve and grow in terms of many of these four factors. And right now they are respected in the world because they are able to offer production. And they're able to do it at a level of value that the world cannot do without. Okay, so it's very important that you are able to look at this. If you as an individual, you want to dominate, whether as an entrepreneur or as an individual, or maybe even as someone doing the things you're doing, you need to check up on these four areas. Which of these four areas do you have? Which of these four areas are you improving at? Which of these four areas are you able to improve at right now? It's very important. It's really critical you look at these things. In terms of land, in terms of labor, in terms of capital, in terms of entrepreneurship. Let no one tell you that it's not important. Money is not important. Do you know many things you would have achieved, places you would have been, connections you would have had, circles you would have belonged to, if only you had capital. But the people who have the capital, they are able to grow more in terms of relevance, in terms of impact, in terms of growth. Look, for example, any industry. Look at the music industry, for example. Look at even the tech industry right now. Who are the people dominating? Those who have more lands, more labor, more capital, and more entrepreneurs. And more entrepreneurs. And more entrepreneurs. Okay? So you can start drawing inference from a lot of these things. You are going into, what some people, maybe you see some people, they are going into battle on Twitter comment section, on X comment section, going into battle in Instagram comment section, going into battle on people's Facebook posts. But the kinds of battle you should be thinking about are in these four areas. You will not dominate by fighting in comment section. You will not dominate by doing all of those things. You would only dominate by doing this, by improving in these four areas. So what's your entrepreneurial value? What's your value in terms of land? What's your value in terms of labor? What's your value in terms of capital? The ability to be able to improve are the things that gives you that edge. All right? So evaluate yourself. Are you really dominating if we have to measure you by these metrics? Or you just have an idea that someday dominion will come? Or you are just expecting that someday things will just come to you, all of those things will gravitate towards you? There's always a deliberate step, a deliberate effort to put into growing and becoming a person of value. Okay. Now, I was how did I even come about this concept of level of dominance, level of dominance? I was working on a research actually. I was working on a particular documentation on something else entirely. It has to do with something in my field in computing and all of that. And I just got this discovery. I just realized that there are actually levels to these things. And I will tell you practical examples. Some of you right now, there are many of these celebrities and influencers and people, you consume their content, you go to the cinema, watch their movies. Whenever they drop a video on YouTube, you rush there and then you're watching and you're like, you want to be the first, and then you download and watch and all of those things. But the reason why they have grown and why many of them grow their wealth into millions and billions and achieve a lot of things is actually because of these things I'm about to show you. But you have not been careful enough to check it out. And I'm going to bring it out. I'm going to reveal the exact secret to you. All right? If only you have carefully seen it. But by the time I begin to tell you and mention, you realize that's exactly what most of them do. That's exactly what most of them do. Okay? It's a very consistent pattern. Now, there are three major levels to dominance. We have the individual level, we have the institutional level, and then we have the international level. I'll say it again, the individual level, the institutional level, and then the international level. Before you will grow and ascend to certain levels, all right, you need to start first at the individual level, individual level. And a lot of the things I will say today is actually going to point towards you as an individual. What are the things you have to do, you have to build, you have to imbibe in order to ensure that you can grow to that level? We have three I's: the individual level, the institutional level, and the international level. Let me take, for example, someone. Just pick any name, for example, anyone you know, you respect, you love watching the person's movie, and then the person right now is producing his or her movie and all of that. Let me tell you how it starts. Take, for example, let's take, for example, let's say Funke Akindele, for example. There was a time Funke Akindele was always, she finished as a graduate of law, Nigeria law. She was doing well. She graduated as a lawyer, but she had interest in acting movies. She wanted to become an actress. She felt she was gifted, and she would go for audition. While she was going for audition and doing all of those things, people would see her doing so well. Some people liked that, some people did not. Some people invited her for roles. Some people did not give her major character roles, just part of her story. Okay, she shared this. And there was a time she was acting in the Yoruba movie industry. They would use her for certain roles, and then she was building, she was increasing, she was doing all of that. And there was a time she wanted to produce a movie called Jennifer. All right. And she saw people loved the lingua. Eventually, she transitioned. She started acting movies in the English industry, and people loved what she was doing. By the time she was able to grow traction, can you see how it started? It started as an individual. By the time she was able to grow traction, she built her own production company. All right. Her own film production company, where she started producing her own movies. And then she started producing her movies on cinema, on YouTube, and all of that. And people in Nigeria loved it. People in Nigeria appreciated her while she built her own institution. You see how it started? It started as an individual, and then it moved on to institution. And from building an institution, she had an amazing movie that did so well in the cinema. She grossed highest selling cinema movie in Africa. And before you knew it, people in diaspora, people in America, people in UK started demanding, we want to watch. And then she took her product international. And she started getting payment in dollars, in pounds. And she did so well, and she grew over and over and over. But how did it start? It started at the level of an individual. There was this story of this guy. Sorry, I can't share my screen now. The current CEO of Chowdeck. The current CEO of Chowdeck, a young guy. If you know Chowdeck, if you're in Lagos, Chowdeck is this bicycle delivery food logistic company. So what they do is they partner with people like Chicken Republic, Tantalizer, and then people make order. They go there, get the order package well put in like a box on the bicycle, and they don't make use of bike. You know what they did? They don't have to pay for fuel. They don't have to face issue of staying so long on when there's traffic jam in Lagos and all of that. And then they can move and enter anywhere and deliver the food. That was how that guy started. At a time, that guy worked with. I want to check. I saw it today, but I didn't really follow through. That guy worked with, I think, was it Paystack? I'm not sure, but he worked with a tech company as one of their like tech guys, developer, and all of that. And from working with different tech companies, he was able to understand the technology, the leadership, and all of that. And eventually, he grew to starting up his own tech company. Okay, so he developed a Chowdeck app where you just go on the app, order for the kind of food you want, they bring it to you, you pay for delivery, pay for the food, and then boom, the guy started growing his business. And a lot of tech guys and people who do remote work, in this era where remote work has grown so much, and an era where people do a lot of remote work, people actually order food from Chowdeck. A lot of people prefer to order food from Chowdeck. Why? Because it's cheaper, and also is cheaper, and also it's faster. All right, you won't hear it's because there is this and that. That's why we didn't come early. It's because my fuel finished. All of those things are not there. The guy thought about the process, built an ecosystem, grew and grew to a point whereby is now the business is now a recognized business everywhere in Nigeria. Just by typing Chowdeck already, you know what it's all about. It's simply a food, grocery, and then logistic company that does a lot of those things. But what did it do? It started with an individual willing to build competence in a space, willing to grow his competence, grow his ability. I see a lot of people who are saying, oh, I want to start a business, I want to become CEO. There's this drive around becoming CEO of this tech startup, tech company. I want to become a CEO and all of that. But you need to understand that the process starts with your individual dominance. There's an individual dominance that comes through upskilling, that comes through knowledge, that comes through connections, that comes through learning leadership system, that comes through building trust and loyalty, the ability to be able to grow and improve and ascend and to be able to do a lot of those things will give you the ability to dominate faster. All right, so you should look at it. Look at the movie industry. That's how it happens. Look at any of your top artists, musical artists you want to talk about. Some of them were in UK, some of them were in America. What did they have to do? They built themselves. They returned back to base, came back to Nigeria, studied the system, were able to build some sort of individual dominance. They were able to improve and do all of those things. Mention any name, just leave the name in your mind, all right? And then as they began to build, they started recording songs, and people were like, oh, that's good. They were playing their songs in Nigeria, playing them in different circles and all of that. Before you knew it, they started improving. They would hold local shows, hold stage shows, hold community shows, and before you knew it, their songs started going viral. Apple, Spotify, all of those streaming platforms, they started getting them. They began ranking high, and then before you knew it, they moved into international charts. Can you see how it started? An individual who maybe signed into a record label, recorded a song, did so well. Eventually, they will say they want to build an institution. They want to own their own record label. All right? They want to own their own record label. And by saying they want to own their own record label, they built an institution. From their institution, they started doing amazing things over and over again. That's how it's done, guys. That's how it's done. Every domination, every time you say dominance, you want to dominate, you want to rule, it's not by words. There's strategies and systems to it. And you will see how people on a daily basis, they keep building it. Even your religious institution, think of your religious institutions that now have branches overseas in different countries. How did they start? An individual got a revelation, started building himself spiritually, started committing to certain practices, had certain rituals, and then became a voice. People trusted, people got wisdom, people got value, people got increase, and all of that. And then they built local churches. Some of them started in schools. Some of them started in small circles, and then they started ascending. After a while, they started building branches in Nigeria or in Ghana or in Liberia or in Uganda. They started building branches. After a while, they went outside. You see how it starts? Individual, institution, and then international. Those are the levels. An individual, institution, and international. Some of you right now, you want to begin to get contracts where people can pay you millions. But firstly, have you so built yourself in terms of individual dominance? Do you even understand what it takes to calculate the tax that comes into your company account? I'm even going far. Do you have a registered business? Do you have a structure? Do you have an organogram to your business? Do you have a system to how that business should run? Do you have a business account? Or people still send money to your personal account, and that's how you want to dominate that industry? No way. No way. Go and check all the people in that industry. Even if you are a fashion designer, go and check up the people who are dominating. The top 1% in the fashion industry. How do they do it? Individual build so much competence, understand the system, understand the industry, understand leadership. Some people are saying Sheyi Vodi, go and study. Started individual dominance, built a business, and then international. Don't say global grace, come on me. Those prayers. Global grace, the grace for global movement. Go and check up. The people will actually make those declarations, and you say amen to them. And then another December 31st will come. And then you shout another amen and pray rigorously. And then you'll be surprised why the move is not coming so sharp. The levels of dominance. Individual, institution, and then you move on and on like that. I know some of you attended, I spoke about a summit and also a conference, and maybe you have attended some massive conferences. You know how people started? Some of them volunteered. While they were volunteering, they were watching and studying. What's the leadership strategy? How are they doing it? This event. So this is how they do it. Oh, this is how they build volunteer team. Okay, this is how they do it. Okay, and then they were in one department. They were trying to do things. They were trying to support. They were trying to help. And while they were doing that, they were building their individual dominance. At a point, people even supported them. People were like, oh, that's good, let's bring you up higher. You can't just be an ordinary volunteer. Let's give you a leadership role. Let's begin to offer you to do this. Okay, let's allow you to run through this thing. And when they are done, they built their own institutions. They started holding their own events, and they were able to hold that event to a great and high scale. Why? Because they first built individual dominance. Are you already building individual dominance? Do you already work at a degree where you can be put in for a thing, and then you'll be able to offer value as though you are the top person in that field or industry? Individual dominance. And then institution. Then you now know how to brand. You learn branding, you learn leadership, you learn management. You bring it into the institution you set up, and then you can take it to an international scale. That's how it happens. Look at even those in real estate industry. I know right now some of you are sort of sales reps, salespeople in the real estate industry. Are you preparing for dominance, or you only want to operate at the point where, yes, you make little money, you feed, you're fine, you're all of that, or you are willing to build depth in that phase of your individual dominance building? I just told you, Just give me any industry. Give me any industry. I will tell you. Think of even schools, institutions in the world, they build by that. Individual, they build in-house, they work on their international system and structure, they ensure everything is well built, and then they build a kind of business around it, they build an organization, build a company around it, and then they begin to seek for international demands, begin to offer solutions for international countries and all of that, and they begin to solve the problem, and then they widen their dominance. Remember where we started from? The factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship. So let me take some time now. The paradox. There's something called the paradox of external power without internal mastery. The paradox of external power without internal mastery. If you're someone who have worked in an organization where you had maybe a boss or a superior or a team lead who seemed to be very brutal, you just see sometimes you do everything, you put in all the effort, and at the end of the day, oh no, this is not good. How can you do this? Should you say you're this? Should you say you're all of that? And then they keep making complex, they be doing everything, and they only believe that whatever others do can never be better than what they do. And sometimes they make it so difficult for you to work with them. Many a times, they try to create a facade as though they are superior, and you need to respect them. You need to just believe what they say. Whatever you say does not count. Whatever you say does not. And externally, it offers them some sort of honor and dignity and respect. But the truth at times is that they seem to have a lot of lapses internally, because they have not been able to build internal mastery and they have not been able to build personal dominance. They need to exercise it externally so that they will seem to have a feeling that they are doing well, and they need to put that pressure on you. They need to put that pressure on you. There's this story, I told you I would come back to the story of Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great happened to be someone that was so feared. He had a militant force, a militant assembly. Remember what we said about labor? He had a lot of people, a lot of armies who were loyal to him. They were willing to die. They were willing to follow him to battle. And, they dominated Greece, India. They fought battles and did all of that. And people became really fearful of them. And while he was doing all of that, he felt, oh, I've gone around the world, I've done all of this. The same thing, if you have read the story of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi force, you would see there were also those kinds of people going there, trying to fight battles, trying to dominate people, trying to make people fear them and all of that. And while Alexander the Great was doing all of this, he was just around 30, and already he has fought war, he has led wars, he has done all of that, and winning wars and doing all of that, that kind of feeling. And when you fight war, you either have more land, more labor, more capital. Okay? Whenever you fight war, you win, it's either for more land, more labor, or more capital. And in all of that, he had money, he got recognition. And at the time, at around the age of, I think, 32, he just looked at all of the things he has done and felt like, oh, I've dominated a lot. I've had a lot of things. I've gotten all of these things in my life. Is there any other thing else left in this life? That was a sense of emptiness internally. Even though externally it was fed, even though externally people felt all was going well, all was good, all was all of this, but internally he knew there was lapses in his life. He knew there was a sense of unfulfillment. There was a sense that, oh, I don't think I'm that happy. Is there any other thing else? And then all of that. And from report, they said it was malaria or maybe typhoid or something that killed him. That was a report we had. A man who was seen to seemingly dominate the world could not dominate malaria and typhoid. That means something. There are many things, irrespective of how powerful you are, irrespective of how people respect you. And this is also the thing with people who say, oh, I have this number of followers. Oh, people are following me. I've gotten this. The number of followers I have. Just respect me because of that and all of that. There's a sense of internal emptiness that always want to make you portray your external achievement when you know there is a gap within. So eventually you had all of that and there is no fulfillment. Now, something you must always look out for is what exactly is your fulfillment. And I wrote here, I said, while you are moved by social media hypes and applause, but sincere to measure how fulfilled you are becoming. All external achievements without personal sovereignty will only lead to self-destruction. So external achievements without personal sovereignty, the ability to take rule over yourself, to have control over your manner of life, to have control over the decisions you take, the way you go, the way you do things, and then your approach to life will only lead to a sense of self-destruction. So you need a sense of personal sovereignty. Now, let me quickly state and define what personal sovereignty is. I think at the time I already spoke on this concept in the webinar, but I will share again in this series because I don't want to believe everybody listening to that session. Now, personal sovereignty means you have gotten to a state, you have gotten to a point where external oppressions or external limitations do not hinder you from stepping into the greatest level of destiny that you desire. All right, the greatest level of destiny you desire. Florence Toluwani, you're welcome. Thank you so much for joining. AJ, I can see you. Thank you so much. Most times you see people say, oh, because this happened maybe in your country, the government this, this policy is made, that policy is made. As valid as those things are, do you still understand how to navigate every system and culture and scenario, and you are still able to accomplish your aim, you are still able to accomplish your dream without being limited? That's the concept of personal sovereignty. The concept of personal sovereignty, where the disciplinary measure of your country or the environment you belong will not become an hindrance to you accomplishing and living your life to the greatest degree you need to accomplish. All of those things are the things that needs you to understand personal sovereignty. Whenever you have to complain about what is happening externally, and for that reason you always have an excuse not to accomplish the things you need to accomplish and fulfill in your life, then you have not gained personal sovereignty. Faithful Timmy, welcome. Thank you so much. I'm saying I also. Thank you so much for joining. Personal sovereignty. So the ability to be able to move on, carry on, and accomplish your dreams, your goals, your accomplishments, and your own agenda without being limited by the limitations that are in your environment means that you have gained personal sovereignty. No, now ask yourself, do you really have personal sovereignty in your life? Or you are still limited by the things that happen externally? So right now, before you know it, the government of your nation will come and say they are coming up with 2026 agenda. And you hear the agenda, you hear the budget, you hear all of those things. But there is one person who does not have an agenda for the year, and that's you. There's one person who never comes out and says, this is my 2026 agenda. And then that's you. And it's the reason why you consistently become driven by the decisions, because you cannot take control of you cannot take control of your life, you cannot take control of your results, you can't take control of your decisions, you can't take control of your outcome in life. So understand the system of personal sovereignty, how to navigate through situations and circumstances and still accomplish your agenda. The presidents of nations, the rulers of nations, prime ministers, they always have an agenda and they create a structural plan. They have a strategic plan to how to ensure they accomplish. They build a budget to how to fulfill it. They try to come up with a labor force to be able to accomplish it. They look out for the best territories, the land to which can enable them fulfill that agenda. And then they try to drive some sort of enterprise around it. You see, the 4 factors of production. So your agenda needs it. Don't wait until what they call crossover, even if it's just a movement from one day to another day. Yes, it's symbolic. Yes, all of those things are good. It's important to build it with proclamations, declarations, but where is the strategy? Where's the strategy? Answer that. Where's the strategy? Where's your roadmap to accomplishing it? How do you want to improve your territory of operation, the labor force that speaks, that echoes your mission and agenda, the capital, how do you want to grow the capital, and how do you want to build an enterprise around it? Your ability to be able to grow around these things will give you a sense of personal sovereignty. All right, so what are the habits for building personal sovereignty? The habits for building personal sovereignty. Number 1, let's talk about the inner mastery and the habits. The inner mastery and the habits. Now, inner mastery and the habits refers to what are the kind of discipline and control that is needed for you to build personal sovereignty. The problem is, as much as you love personal sovereignty, it will not come to you if you don't build the habits that will attract it. I've been reading this book now for some time now, Atomic Habit by James Clear, and I'm beginning to realize more clearly the reason why most times ambitions are not usually what drives your results. Many a times, they are usually the habits that you build over time consistently. Okay, so you see somebody sometimes say, oh, I want to move from level 1 to level 10. But you do not have a kind of habit that you have, a kind of culture, a kind of system, a kind of manner of life that you have built over time consistently that will show that you get there. And that's the reason why the people who have the habits for outcomes will get it faster and will have higher probability of getting there than those who just wish or desire that they have it. So habits are very powerful. So the system of self-discipline and control. Now, what are the things you have to do in order to build personal sovereignty? Presidents of nations have something called the Federal Executive Council meeting, the FEC meeting, where they have all the governors, all the ministers, they sit, and you know what they do? They reflect. They say, oh, in the first quarter, we're planning that in our agenda, in our budget, we want to achieve this, we want to accomplish this, we want to do all of this. Or can we sit and see how far we have been able to achieve it? When do you have your own Federal Executive Council meeting? So one of the habits, one self-discipline you need to have is the ability to reflect and journal. So every day or maybe every week, at the end of every week, you sit down and you begin to analyze, oh, what a week I've spent this week, and I've been able to, I planned that, oh, maybe in the first quarter, I want to achieve X, Y, Z, I want to achieve 1, 2, 3. So right now in this week, what have I done to be able to move close to it? You see why presidents of nations are the way they are? You see why ministers are appointed the way they are? You see why commissioners are appointed the way they are? Why? Because they have a discipline of reflection and journaling. They reflect and they journal. Oh, in terms of finance, are we doing very well? Okay, can we say we are edging close to accomplishing what we really wanted to get in terms of our financial foreign reserve, in terms of the things we want to build in entrepreneurship, in terms of how we have been able to drive the economy? There is a sense of reflection and journaling. So you are able to sit down and write. Sometimes an idea comes and then you draft it and then you call for a meeting. Now, this meeting, now when I say reflection now, the meeting will no longer be where you have all the external factors, but you sitting down with yourself in the boardroom to decide whether you are journeying right or not. To decide whether you're journeying right or not. That's why I love those who speak very sincerely to me. Like some of my students will say, "Oh, sir, I really wanted to get this, but it seems I didn't really achieve it," and all of that. That's being sincere. Those kinds of people will build a sense of personal sovereignty than the people who just live life to chance. You know, what most people do is they just live, they just expect, "Oh, I've woken up today. Let's let the things that will happen today just happen." They don't have a discipline. They do not have a Federal Executive Council meeting that they hold with themselves. All right. So this is something you need to understand. So number one, inner mastery and habits. One is daily reflection and journaling. So you begin to review your action, you begin to look out, you begin to check up. Okay, these days, I was not able to do this. Why did I not achieve this? What do I have to do to improve on it? How can I ensure that I can get better? How can I ensure that I can keep moving on? That's how you start building personal sovereignty. All right. Now, the next thing is delayed gratification. Delayed gratification. So your ability to be able to sacrifice temporary pleasure for long-term gain. Temporary pleasure for long-term gain. That's very, very critical. Your ability to be able to sacrifice temporary pleasure for long-term gain. I want you to do a review on certain nations, a lot of first world nations. There were times and instances when white people were investing maybe money in buying luxury, and then they were acquiring luxuries from other nations. They were trying to spend money on things that maybe didn't really last and was not so valuable as salt. Many of them actually decided to keep those funds and they offered it into very strategic investments. And by the time those nations that were investing, don't let me say those nations, where the leaders of certain nations were investing in luxury and buying a lot of those things and all of those things, when the value of the luxury they bought went down, these nations who actually had key investment, maybe they invested in their people, they sent some of their best minds to the best places to study, and then brought them back into their nations to do certain things. When these nations started reaping the fruit of their investment, those other nations could no longer match up to them anymore. So the same way, bringing it over to you, in your ability to build personal sovereignty, what are long-term investments you are making right now that will grow your capital? All right, that will help you make more, that will allow you have more money in the future. When crisis hit and all of those things happen, you'll be able to go into that reserve, and then you'll be able to make use of it to do something more pivotal. The ability to be able to deny gratification is something that will grant you personal sovereignty, which means whether things go wrong, when many people will be thrown away by the erosion and the flood and they will be hit by the crisis and all of the things that will happen, you will still be standing. Why? Because you have denied gratification. So what are the things you are willing to put this into? Right now, are you investing in knowledge? Are you trying to put in your money to buy maybe, for example, knowledge, to attend conferences, to invest in mentorship, to be able to get the books that will build your mind, why every other person are not building for it, whereby 5 years from now, people will count it a privilege to invite you to speak for 13 minutes on their platform. Why? Because you denied yourself gratification. You delayed gratification, and then eventually, by the time they needed people that were valuable enough to be able to speak, to offer value, to be able to impact, to be able to do things, you were prepared and ready because you did not give yourself to temporary pleasure. All right, the next thing is consistent rituals. Consistent rituals. Like, for example, one of the things I do mostly is that every day before I start out a task or do something, I write it down. I write it down. You know why? I don't want people coming into my space to steal my time because I did not have any plan for what to do with it. You know why some of you are not respected and are not regarded as really valuable? Because every day as it comes, you commit to the things that just come by chance. You are not so prepared and ready. You are not structured in the way you live your life. That is why other people take control of your time. That's why other people take control of your time. So you don't wake up, okay, what do you want to do today? Anything that comes. So that's why you become the victim of the day, become the victory of the time, or you help other people accomplish their own agenda. Always have an agenda for the day. You need to have a morning ritual. So build a system around the things you do in your life every day. So when you wake up every day, what are the first 6 things you do? What are the first 6 things you do before you even pick your phone? What are the first 6 things you do before you step out? What are the 6 things you have to do before you sleep that day? That's when you start building a ritual. You need to have something called a ritual. You know, I've spoken about ritual in the past. Ritual used to be a very powerful force in those old days, whether it's in the eastern part of Nigeria, or western part of Nigeria, or maybe in the south region of Nigeria. People always coming, doing something, and they believe that when they do it consistently, something will happen to a point that the spirit force takes over that thing that they do. What ritual do you have? What are the things you do on a daily basis? What are the things you commit to consistently that shows that you are going to accomplish that agenda that you have for your life? Okay, so it's very important. So consistent ritual. Also, impulse management. How do you manage impulse? When something just happens, do you just respond to it? Or you are very strategic, you study things, you don't just react to things? Are you very emotionally stable? Do you have that emotional intelligence? When people speak certain way to you, when people come to your comment section and say certain things, you just have this outburst and then you react in a very rational way and all of that. Emotional intelligence, very, very important. Faithful Timmy, yeah, you can drop your question. When I see, I'll just look at it and be very strategic. So you will see that those who are able to build this discipline, whether as nations or institutions or as individuals, they are seen to be sovereign. Why? You cannot just drag them into something. They are intelligent to how they manage situations. Okay, they're intelligent to how they manage situations. And then lastly, consistent learning. Consistent learning. You will see that there are nations that no matter what happens between 2 different nations, you will never see them. You will not see them put their mouth into it. You know what they are doing? They are studying. They are on the lookout for their interest and saying, okay, where should we align to? How can we grab this? They are learning, they are watching, they are strategizing, they are looking out for the best case scenarios and knowing how to really put their foot in and seeing where to step in and all of that. So consistent learning is also how you build personal sovereignty. Read books on leadership, read books on historic dispensation, on past empires. Read about the Babylonian Empire, the Persian Empire, read on the Roman Empire, read on the British Empire. Just study those things about history and see the systems and discipline that these people put themselves through in order to become global and to become world forces. All right, so it's very, very important, and these are things that will change your life. Yeah, Faithful, I am already looking out for your questions. I want to see what your question is about. So, well done, guys. So, building personal sovereignty, levels of dominance: the individual level, institutional level, and the international level. And we've spoken about the different levels. We're still going to take a part 2 of the level of dominance next week, God willing. And we'll look more at some of the things you have to do as individuals to build the habits of personal sovereignty. So if you have questions, you can just point out there. And please don't just take sides or comment or join people to be arguing, oh, this is this, that is that. Study, draw your personal lessons, and begin to apply and imbibe them. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for joining. There's never a personal time. There's never a better time to start building personal sovereignty than now. Start being intentional. Don't wait for anybody to do it for you. Be intentional about how you do it. Don't let people steal your time. Don't let people steal your money. Don't let people steal your energy. Don't let people steal your attention. Be sovereign. Control them. Have how nations used to have Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Budget and Planning, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Communication, Ministry of Digital Economy. You also need to have those ministries. You need to have those ministries in your life too. All right, so you need to have those ministries and people you consult on those spaces in your life. Like finance, you have people you consult. You have a minister of finance. You have a minister of education. You're thinking right now, what's the next thing I want to learn? What's the next phase of education I want to get into? I'm already going ahead. I'm just enjoying what I'm doing. I can keep speaking like this for as long as I want to. All right, so Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Digital Economy. Oh, right now in tech space, in communication space, okay, what are the things I need to look out for? AI is right there. What are the certain things I need to look out for in AI and all of those things, in all of those tools, quantum computing? How do I begin to navigate through it? How will I ensure I apply it in what I'm doing? That's building personal sovereignty. You also have your own ministries. Ministry of this, ministry of this, ministry of that, and then you are able to utilize them to accomplish one thing. Remember your agenda. Every of those ministries are put there in order to fulfill the agenda of an executive, the president. You need to also operate with that intelligence. Don't just see governance as, oh, they're government, and then what you're doing, complain, comment, saying, oh, the government did this, the government did not do this, the president, the governor. No, that's not your business. Study the structures and systems that have worked and see how to apply them into your life. And then you become like a president. You become like an executive that begins to control and begin to ensure that things are put in place. Okay, Faithful is saying, regarding drafting out the activity for the day. Yeah, so of course, it's very simple. You can have a journal or you can have a notepad that you make use of. So I have like a notepad where I draft out tasks that I need to do and accomplish. And then when I get anyone done, immediately I begin to tick them out, and I be on the lookout of the things I have to do. What about if a situation occurs that completely disrupt the activities you set for the day? How would you go about it? So you will schedule the time. You will schedule another time that you want to get it done. But something you have to be on the lookout is that ensure that the task that is trying to disrupt you is that important and critical for you to focus on. If it is not that important and critical, if it is not so urgent and important for you to engage in, leave it, do it another time, complete your own agenda before you get at it. All right, but except it's important and it's urgent, and you have to be the one that will do it. There are some tasks that you necessarily don't have to be the one that will do it. All you have to do is maybe you can delegate them, you can allow other people to do them, and focus on the things that will accomplish your own agenda. All right, so those are things. And another thing you need to also realize is that don't let people guilt trip you in fulfilling their own agenda, making you think that you are doing the wrong thing by saying no to them. Maybe I'll speak more about this. I'll probably speak more about this next week. That's why you should not miss Root School next week. You see, all this guilt tripping, we'll talk about it. I'll shake some people's table. They say, are we not friends again? Do answer me now. I thought you said that you are this. I thought that you said that you are this. And then they'll guilt trip you. At the end of the day, you will not fulfill your own agenda. But they will be so happy, so delighted that you were the one who supported and helped their own mission. But at the end of the day, you are the only one who really did not make progress in that day. So you have to be very deliberate, you have to be very wise, respectfully, and then strategically ensure that you are able to manage that space. Okay, just ensure that that task that you want to do and you want to leave your own agenda to fulfill is that important, is that urgent, is life threatening, and then you just have to attend to it. So that's it. I hope I answered your question, Faithful. Any other question? I don't know if there are other questions. Thank you so much, guys. It's nice doing this with you. I'm so blessed having everyone join. Those who joined, those who stayed from the beginning of the stream till the end, those who left off, and that. Initially, I was thinking that I would not leave the replay. Why? Because there were some sensitive things I thought I was going to share, but I don't think there's any sensitive thing that cannot be left for replay. But whenever they are very sensitive and maybe things I don't want people to see or things that maybe cause some things, I would not just leave the replay. Thank you very much. The replay is on. You can always go back and watch and look at it. Today I just decided to go straight up to stream with my phone on YouTube because I was not very sure of the network. But maybe next week we'll use StreamYard again and we'll see all our comments and all of that. Thank you so much. I celebrate you, love you. Keep making the rest of your life the best of your life. Keep making a difference in the things that you do, and ensure that your season, the chances and the opportunities meant for you do not pass you. Till I come your way again, keep changing your life. Please do well to subscribe, do well to drop a like, and drop very amazing comments. Bye-bye. Thank you, Chima Godfrey. Thank you so much. Good night. Good night. Good night.